The human immune system acts as the first line of defense against any invaders. The invaders, called as pathogens, invade our body. They are different organisms like bacteria, fungi, and viruses. So, as immune system, I said, is the first line of defense. The basic property of the immune system is that it differentiates between self and non-self. What that means is that it can differentiate between the host cell and will not target them, whereas it specifically targets the non-self or the invaders or the pathogens. So it can recognize very easily the difference between the host cells and the invaders, and it will specifically target the invaders. It protects the host body against pathogens, which means that whenever any pathogen enters the body, the immune system starts functioning. It doesn't take time. The immune system starts to work against it on how to get rid of it. There is two types of immune system in the body. First is the innate immune system. The innate immune system, as it stands, is from the birth of the human. So they are physical and chemical barriers that are present from the birth of the human being, and they are non-specific in nature, which means that they work around a wide range of pathogens with the same force. And the next one is the adaptive immunity. The adaptive immunity, as it sounds, is that it evolves, it adapts for the new pathogens that are invading the human beings. So the adaptive immune system adapts with time, and with frequent encounters it becomes more and more ferocious. So both of them use the humoral immunity and the cell mediated immunity. The humoral immunity means that it is in the humor, which means in body fluids. It can be in the blood, it can be in the lymph, it can be in extracellular medium. And the next is cell mediated immunity, which means that the immunity works inside the cells of the human beings. And cell mediated immunity comes into force whenever the pathogen invades a human cell, and like viruses, they replicate and spread diseases inside the host cell. So against the viruses, cell mediated immunity comes into force, where the host cells of the body are destroyed by the immune system to protect against the invasion of pathogens. And the last point to know is that the human immune system is always evolving. What it means that we encounter new pathogens every time the environment is filled with new pathogens. What happens is that the immune system and pathogens are in a constant war. So like the immune system is evolving, the pathogens also mutate and become stronger and dangerous for the human body. So whenever a new mutated pathogen is encountered by the human body, it adapts itself, it attacks the new pathogens with the new mechanisms it has evolved against it. So it is constantly evolving, it is constantly rectifying its mistakes, and it learns from the past experiences. So one more thing we should note from the immune system is that it has memory in it. What does it means is that the immune system learns from its past experiences and keeps a memory of the past encounters. So whenever the body is affected by the pathogen again, it can very quickly and swiftly get rid of it and can initiate an action or a response against it very swiftly. So immunity also has a memory of the past encounters of pathogens and becomes stronger and stronger with subsequent encounters. The immune system can easily differentiate between the self and the non-self. Host cells are the self because they have some markers, some receptors on their cell membrane, and the pathogens also have some receptors or some markers on it. The pathogens can be differentiated from the host cell on the basis of some repeated markers, also called as pathogen associated markers, and can be easily distinguished from the host cells. The first part of the immune system, as I said, is innate immunity, and the other one is the adaptive immunity. Here the term leukocytes refers to the white blood cells. So the part of the blood that is responsible for giving immunity to the body are called as leukocytes. So it's a very broad term and also called as white blood cells. So leukocytes are the cells that are responsible for providing the immunity to the body. So they are basically designed for the immune purposes, to giving immunity to the body. So in innate immunity, as I said, that it is non-specific in nature. What the term means is that it gives a similar response for a large variety of pathogens. Here the term similar response and non-specific means that the response is somewhat similar for all the types of pathogens, be it bacteria, be it viruses, be it some allergen that enters the body. It cannot adapt. So the response cannot adapt, it will not evolve, it will remain so for most of the lifetime of the host. The next part of the innate immunity is that the response is very fast and maximal response is initiated swiftly. It means that the response in innate immunity doesn't take time to pent up, to develop, and it is very fast. In an instance, when the pathogen enters the body, the innate immune system starts to work and full response is given. It doesn't increase with coming time and doesn't adapt. It just gives its full response in a first encounter. So during the first encounter with the pathogen or every subsequent encounter, it gives its full response and maximal response to the pathogen. The innate immune system is composed of macrophages. Macrophages are very large cells that are basically the first line of defense in the innate immune system. They are present in each and every tissue of the human body, and what they basically do is that they eat the bacteria, eat the viruses that have invaded the host cell. Next is the granulocytes, which are the neutrophils, eosinophils, and the basophils. They also protect the body by giving the immune response based on releasing of toxins and chemicals as such that destroys the bacteria and viruses. These toxic chemicals are also toxic and harmful for the human host system, and sometimes when the bacteria and viruses have invaded the human cells, these toxins are released so that they can kill the host cell that have been invaded. The toxins are for those cells that have been compromised by the invasion of the invading pathogens. Next are the dendritic cells. They are large cells and they are the primary cells that are key for presenting of the antigen to the adaptive immune system. So the dendritic cells form a bridge between the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. We are going to discuss dendritic cells in detail in further videos. And innate immunity also doesn't create any memory because the response is always non-specific, so no need is required by the body to create any memory for it, because in each and every subsequent encounter of the pathogen, the body will respond more or less the same way to the invading pathogen. That's why no memory is created, because every time the response will be fast and it will be to the full potential of the innate immune system. The parts of the innate immune system are the physical barriers, our skin, the mucus that lines the gastrointestinal tract and our respiratory tract, the sweat and tears. They contain some chemicals that can hamper the growth of invading bacteria and viruses. So the skin also acts as a physical barrier. It doesn't allow the invasion of bacteria and viruses into the human body. Next is the phagocytosis of the macrophages, the granulocytes, the dendritic cells. They all phagocytose. The property of cells to eat something is called as phagocytosis, where phago means to eat and cyto is related to cells. And the bacteria that are native and are present, the flora that is present inside our gut and on the skin also, they prevent other invasion of bacteria from happening, because the invading bacteria fight from the natural flora of the body for resources and space. So these bacteria also doesn't allow for the growth of that, why it is required to maintain a good microflora of helpful bacteria inside our body, which prevents us. The macrophage are the first line of defense in the innate immune system. They are present alongside each and every tissue inside our body, and the macrophages are called as macrophage because they are the large eaters of the body. What they do is that they can engulf the incoming pathogen, like we have some pathogenic bacteria near the macrophage, and we can see here that it is very large in size. It is some of the largest cells of the body. That's why they are called as macrophages, and they work by engulfing the pathogen through phagocytosis, which means that they expand their cell membrane when they come in contact with the pathogenic bacteria or some other pathogens, and they can eat around 100 to 150 pathogens at a single time. Here we can see that the incoming bacteria has been phagocytosed by the macrophage. So the macrophage do the phagocytosis by expanding its cellular membrane, and by expanding it, it engulfs the nearby pathogens. Here we see the pathogenic bacteria has been engulfed, and when the bacterial pathogen has been engulfed is that the layer of the cell membrane of the macrophage forms a vesicle around the bacterial pathogen called as a phagosome, and this phagosome fuses with the lysosome that is present inside the macrophage and becomes a phagolysosome, as you can see in the image. What happens is that the lysosome contains some acids, some hydrolytic enzymes in it, which disintegrates the pathogen and makes it ineffective. So by eating, the macrophage engulfs the pathogens and disintegrates them, digests them, and makes them ineffective in causing further disease inside the body. So that's why we say that in innate immunity, macrophage are the first line of defense, because they work in a brute force manner. They disintegrate, they digest the microbes and render them ineffective in causing any diseases. After the disintegration of the pathogen, the macrophage releases some cytokines in its surrounding environment. Cytokines are basically chemical messengers of the immune system, so they help in signaling and activation of other cells of the immune system, because as I said that macrophages are the first line of defense in the immune system. So it's their job to signal the other components of the immune system to get ready to fight the pathogen, and it activates the other components of the immune system, and it has a cascading effect, which means that it goes down the hierarchy of the immune cell components. So different components of the immune system, different cells of the immune system get activated through the help of cytokines. And cytokines, because this is an overview video, it's a brief video, I will not go into details about the different cytokines that activate cells of the immune system, but we should note here that different cytokines are responsible for different effects on different cells of the immune system. So if we say that some cytokines act as activators of some cells of the immune system, whereas they can also act as repressors and can repress the functioning of other cells of the immune system. So different cytokines are responsible for different cells, and sometimes a combination of cytokines is needed for proper activation of the immune cells. So we can say that cytokines act as signaling molecules in the immune system. What happens next is that the cytokines released are in increased concentration around the macrophage. That signals to the immune system that the macrophages have disintegrated the bacterial pathogen or any other pathogen, and the concentration of pathogen in the vicinity of the macrophage is greater as compared to other body parts. So next in the step is that the neutrophils in the blood vessels, they get attracted towards the area where there is increased concentration of pathogens, and we can see here that the neutrophils are attracted towards the cytokines where the cytokine concentration is greater, the neutrophils get attracted towards it. The process of attraction of neutrophils towards increased concentration of cytokines is called as chemotaxis. Chemotaxis is the term used when we have to discuss the movement of cells in an amoeba-like fashion, and here the chemotaxis happens. The neutrophils move towards the area of infection where the pathogen is, and in this situation the cytokines, the chemical messenger of the immune system, is called as a chemokine because it aids in the chemotaxis process. It aids in the movement of neutrophils toward the site of infection. The suppression that is caused by cytokines is necessary because when the pathogen has been eliminated from the body, the immune cells have to be suppressed, because if not suppressed, the immune cells can be triggered by unwanted messengers, unwanted cytokines, and they can attack the host cell.